So, Force Awakens is 10 years old now, huh? That is crazy to think about. It only feels like the film came out yesterday. If you have lived anywhere from the late 70s to present day and not heard of Star Wars at least a few times, well, I gotta know what rock you're living under. From movies, TV shows, video games, books, tabletop, and so much more, so many franchises can only hope to have the reach and success that Star Wars has. And Disney clearly knew this well enough as they bought LucasArts, and eventually, Force Awakens was released in theaters. I can still remember being there to see The Force Awakens for the first time with my family, and I was so excited. Like, this was the first film in a new Star Wars trilogy, and I wasn't able to experience the prequels in theaters, so this was the first time I was able to experience the first film in a new Star Wars trilogy. But now I'm older and the movie is celebrating its 10-year anniversary. Wow. I was 14 years old when this movie came out. Like, that is crazy to think about. But I can only recall watching this film that one time, and maybe I watched it one other time before, but I don't remember watching it a whole lot, which is true for a lot of movies, sadly. But since the movie is 10 years old now, I feel like talking about it. So this is just going to be a little rant on Force Awakens from the perspective of a jaded Zoomer. Maybe I'll do an actual review for this and the other two sequels if I feel like it, because I do have a lot of thoughts on this trilogy. And that is really not a compliment. Like, I was crashing out through text in my BFF while watching Last Jedi and Rise of Palpatine. So to start off, most of my feelings on this movie are positive, even if the overall film is pretty flawed. I really love the opening scene. It perfectly establishes how ruthless the First Order is, and it introduces Finn and his arc in this film pretty well. It was pretty cool to see the film give a stormtrooper this much identity compared to other films, video games, and shows where the stormtroopers are mostly just fodder for the good guys. And while we're talking about Finn, I really like his dynamic with Poe. I really wish these two stayed a duo throughout the trilogy because their bromance is easily the most likable and fun dynamic in this trilogy, but it's only in this movie where they get any real interactions. I'm gonna be real, the sequel trilogy probably would have been way better if it was a buddy cop style adventure with these two. Rey is also at her most likable in this film. Her being able to do maintenance on the Falcon and knowing what to do with piloting and disabling mechanical doors doesn't feel that outlandish. Being a scavenger, she would most likely have interacted with lots of broken down ships and other machines. She's not as interesting as Luke or Anakin, especially in the next two movies, but just watching this film alone, up until the end of the film, she seemed like she was set up to be a pretty good protagonist. Not that I don't have issues with how she was used in this film, but I still liked her. Kylo Ren is kinda cool, but at the same time, I'm also kinda mixed on him. His mask and lightsaber are really cool, but his character... I like the scenes where he's talking to his troops and giving orders while being calm and composed, but the moments where he throws a tantrum when things don't go his way just feel off-putting. He just kind of feels like an emotionally unstable teenager in an adult's body, and it's kind of hard to take him seriously. That was probably the point, but I don't know, man. Kylo Ren just confuses me. I really can't decide if I like him or hate him. That being said though, Adam Driver was really good in this role. He might actually be the best actor in this trilogy. Hux though, yeah, this guy is easily the best First Order character here. He just steals the show in every scene he's in, and that scene where he gives that speech before Starkiller's first firing is like the only scene in this movie that gives me chills. Like, no diff, that is easily the best scene in this movie, and Domhnall Gleeson really gives it his all in every scene he's in. I sure do hope later movies won't ruin his character, resulting in him losing so many cool points and intimidation attached to him. No, that would never happen. I don't have much to say about the visuals in action. They're pretty good, and while the lightsaber duels aren't great in my opinion, I love how gritty they feel, especially Rey and Kylo's face-off, and especially Finn facing off against the best character in the movie, nay, the best character in the trilogy, FN 2199. What a guy. I haven't seen the film in a while, but man, this fight scene still sticks with me. And now for the points you guys were probably expecting. I know it's expected to hate on the prequels, but now that I've watched it again for the first time in forever, there are so many issues that I did not notice with this movie as a teenager. So to start off, I didn't understand this point before when it was being brought up, but watching this film again, it really does feel like it's pandering to the OT fanboys. Being a sequel to the original trilogy, it was a given that the OT would be referenced, but the fact it centers around a character that comes from a desert planet, it ending with destroying a massive superweapon by the new army of the trilogy, and the designs of the stormtroopers being copy-pasted from the stormtroopers of the OT. Personally, I think the Sith troopers from Rise of Palpatine would have been a better design for the new army of the First Order, but I think that's just me. Also, I can somewhat believe the First Order existing since the remnants of the Empire would probably start a new army, and that is a cool concept, but how did they get all these weapons and technology? Did nobody know about these people? Was there no leaks to the New Republic about Starkiller Base? Also, I'm really not a fan of how Han Solo's death is handled. I get that Harrison Ford wanted Han to die since Empire Strikes Back, but this really didn't feel like a fitting death for one of cinema's coolest characters. You really expect me to believe that Han wouldn't see Kylo igniting his lightsaber and stabbing him coming? Han never made the best life choices during the OT, but he's not an idiot, and it felt like the movie decided to turn his brain off just to make this death happen. Also, why is Luke considered a myth in this movie if it's only been 30 years after the OT? I probably would believe he would be a myth if this was like thousands of years after the OT, but 30 years? Nah, I can't believe that. You want me to believe that Luke Skywalker, one of the people responsible for defeating the Emperor and bringing down the Empire that has had its grasp on the galaxy for over 20 years, is considered a myth? Yeah, I'm not buying that. World War II happened over 30 years ago. You think we've forgotten that? Also, what the hell is the Youngling Slayer 9000 doing here? That long of a fall, and it was somehow picked up by Wish.com Yoda for whatever reason. How did she get it?
A good question for another time.
Go fuck yourself!
Another thing, what is the Millennium Falcon doing on Jakku? I'm not as mad at this as I am the Youngling Slayer 9000, but shouldn't it be in like a museum or something? You know, no wonder the original trilogy is considered a myth or legend. Nobody in this universe thought to preserve its history. Oh, but Jay, there's this comic that explains it. I don't care! Also, I know I said I liked Rey in this film, and don't get me wrong, I still do, but there were already some red flags with her character in this film. Her being competent enough to apprehend Finn when BB-8 tells her that Finn is wearing his master's jacket. Yeah, okay, it's in the beginning of the movie, and we saw her brandishing that staff before. Her knowing what to do with maintaining the Falcon, I can also believe, because she most likely interacted with a lot of machines during her time as a scavenger. What I can't accept is her already being able to use the Jedi mind trick. I don't care how high your midichlorian count is, unless you're a part of Yoda's species, nobody should be this good with the Force without training, especially the Jedi mind trick. Isn't that a more advanced light sight ability? Anakin was able to use the Force in episode 1, or maybe it was the Force guiding him, I don't know, but even then, I don't recall him ever using Jedi mind trick in that movie. But honestly, the Jedi mind trick is the one that really bothers me with Rey's Force abilities. I can somewhat believe that she can grab the Youngling Slayer 9000 through the Force. Doesn't excuse her writing in later movies, but overall, I didn't mind Rey in Force Awakens. What I do mind is how Finn got shafted. Even when I was a teenager, this still pissed me off, because Finn was shaping up to be one of my favorite Star Wars characters. His character development was really good, I liked his relationships with the other characters, and the concept of a stormtrooper rebelling, realizing he is Force sensitive, and fighting against this new threat while training to become a Jedi was so cool. And when he picked up the Youngling Slayer 9000 to face Kylo Ren, I remember being so excited. Finally, my boy was gonna take the final steps to become a Jedi, and then Rey picked up the saber. And this isn't just an issue with this movie, the later two movies just hate Finn. I know I probably shouldn't bring up the next two sequel movies in a movie about The Force Awakens, but I want to make this point with Finn in particular because he was such a cool character. But if he couldn't be the main character, why couldn't he still be a Jedi going through his own training alongside Rey to fit with the theme of raising a new generation of Jedi? Oh yeah, because the sequel trilogy favors a white woman. Very progressive, Disney. OMG, Jade, why are you being so entitled? Why do you keep questioning the writing of Star Wars? Don't you know it's just a movie with space wizards that fight with laser swords? You just lack media literacy! I know I was pretty negative at the end, but I really don't hate Force Awakens. Rewatching this film brought back a lot of positive memories when I was in love with Star Wars, but rewatching the next two films also reminded me why I stopped being a fan of Star Wars for a while. Because this film was enjoyable, but was also pretty flawed, but it did set up something that could have been pretty good. There's probably some things I didn't bring up or forgot to bring up that others pointed out about the movie, but I was mostly just pointing out what I thought stood out to me the most. You notice how I didn't bring up Phasma? Yeah, me neither. Like, I literally forgot she existed until I got to this part of the script. But if I were to rank all the Star Wars movies, Force Awakens is definitely not going to be higher than Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, or any of George's movies for that matter, but it was better than the next two sequels. But honestly, I really don't think there's going to be a revisionism for this trilogy. Especially considering that trilogy that Rian Johnson was supposed to be doing is all but dead now. Look, all I'm saying is, one trilogy has Darth Maul and Jango Fett, and also paved the way for a show that gave us one of the best characters in Star Wars, and the other trilogy has Holdo and Rose Tico. And Disney has not done anything with the sequels since Rise of Palpatine came out. But overall, I think Force Awakens is a good time as just one Star Wars movie, but as a part of the sequel trilogy, it's decent, but it's sad watching this movie and then seeing the next two movies right after Force Awakens, since I can actually witness how much this trilogy squandered its writing without waiting a few years for the next one. I don't think Star Wars is in as bad of a place as it was before. I mean, we still do get some garbage occasionally, but at least we got some good stuff after the sequels. I still need to catch up on some of the Star Wars stuff I haven't seen yet, but Star Wars seems like it's in a pretty fine place now. Andor and Ahsoka I've heard are both really good, and I really need to rewatch Clone Wars so I can check out Rebels and Bad Batch at some point. The sequel trilogy used to be the bane of my existence. I mean, Rise of Palpatine left such a bad taste in my mouth that I didn't interact with the franchise for a while, but now, I'm pretty sad. This trilogy could have been something good even with the issues Force Awakens had, but that didn't happen. And I think that sadness might be a worse feeling than straight up just hating these films. So, yeah, this probably wasn't a very fun video, but this is just what I wanted to say about Force Awakens. But with Star Wars Starfighter, who knows, we might actually get something good. I mean, it'll have Ryan Gosling, how could you go wrong with that? But I really don't think I want another trilogy anytime soon. So, I don't know, I think I'm just gonna spend the rest of my year playing Silent Hill or something. Maybe I'll make another video, like I think I'm gonna make another Thomas video after this one. I don't know, I'm so tired. Don't buy Postal 3.